night shifts are commonly known for being unnerving and even dangerous. The stories in this video feature gruesome details of someone taking their own life and a brutal assault. Viewer discretion is advised. I'm a police officer, verified on Protect and Serve in the southern U.S., in a suburban department of about 100 sworn officers. I work in a college town. I've been on about 10 years now, made sergeant 4 years ago. But at the time of this story, I was just 2 years on, working night shift patrol. I've been lucky that not a lot has affected me, mentally anyway, during my career. I don't have kids. That's how it gets to you usually. You can build all the mental walls you want, but when you have an emotional connection with your kids and see something happening to kids, the walls mean nothing. Anyway, this one stuck with me. Still makes my hair stand on end, especially when it rains. It was September, just after midnight. I get put on a call of shots fired. Now, normally these calls turn out to be either fireworks or perhaps a car backfiring, but mostly fireworks. So unless we get multiple calls on it, or a confirmed gunman or someone confirmed wounded, we just send one unit. That night, it was me. The shots fired was reported around a college football stadium. This was during football season, so there were a bunch of really big white tents set up all around the parking lots for tailgaters. I notified dispatch that I was on scene and started rolling through the parking lots, casting my spotlight here and there. It was raining, pretty heavily, and hard to see. About halfway through the lots, my spotlight illuminated the silhouette of a man sitting in a folding chair under one of those tents. I pulled closer and lit him up and notified dispatch that I was out with one in the parking lot. His back was to me. He appeared to be hunched forward, as if his elbows were on his knees and his head leaning forward. I walked towards him and started calling out to him. Can't remember exactly what I said, but something like, "Hey man, you okay? You heard anything strange? Can you come talk to me?" He didn't move or answer. As I drew closer, I lit him up with my flashlight. I then noticed the outline of a shotgun on the pavement next to him. Combined with him not answering and the nature of the call, it was enough for me to break leather and have dispatch hold the channel. I kept calling to him as I approached, asking him to show me his hands, etc. 30 feet, 20 feet, 10 feet. My handgun, a Glock Model 22, has a Streamlight TLR-1 light on it, so I had him lit up. 6 feet, under the tent with him, 5 feet, 4 feet. I close on him, come around to the front of him. Shotgun suicides are difficult. Often if they put the barrel under their chin, the blast from the barrel will blow the gun out from under their chin before the shot ever hits them. There was a guy in my hometown that succeeded in a shotgun suicide, only because he did it in front of a pond, put the barrel under his chin, pulled the trigger, only managed to blow his face off. Coroner said he probably ran around screaming through the hole that used to be his mouth before he drowned in the pond. This guy succeeded, blew his head clean off. You do this job long enough, you notice funny little details. His elbows were indeed resting on his knees. It was as though he blew his head off, set the shotgun on the ground next to him, and then leaned forward and rested his elbows on his knees to think about what he'd done. About that time, I noticed that even though I was under the tent with him, it felt like it was still raining. And then I looked up. Many years ago, I used to work the night shift at a hotel in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. During the season, it wasn't so bad, mostly families and stuff. We had on-site security then too, However, in the off-season, the winter months were different. The cheap weekly rates we'd offer attracted a lot of creepy people. The idea was supposed to be to make money in the off-season by renting to what is known as snowbirds, older retired people who came to the beach for a month or more through the winter. It did not always work out that way, though. The cheap rates made it possible for a less than desirable element to become long-term residents. I've discovered more than my fair share of meth labs, broken up physical assaults, and more during the winter months. Working third shift, I would meet some interesting people. The cold weather would mean some homeless people would come in and get warm and grab a cup of free coffee. I wasn't supposed to let them, but it's not in me to be cruel. I would let them grab a coffee and get warm for a minute, as long as they didn't cause trouble. As you can see, the night shift in the winter made for some crazy and sometimes creepy stories. I have a lot, but this one is one that stands out because it didn't end well for me. I had a great night up to this point. I went out to an indie wrestling show with my best friend before work. In fact, I had agreed to come in an hour early the next night for the young lady that worked second shift in exchange for her working an hour late for me on this night, so I could enjoy the wrestling show. Ironically enough, I met Terry Funk that night, a wrestling legend known for his hardcore and bloody matches. Little did I know, I was about to experience this kind of violence for real. I was supposed to be there at midnight due to her working over an hour for me. I normally came in at 11 p.m. I counted the register and she briefed me on her shift as to what happened as per usual. As she was leaving, my friend, we'll call him Andrew, pulled up. He worked second shift maintenance at this hotel and the other two hotels our company owned. He would regularly stop by after work and go grab us some food, and we would play World of Warcraft on our laptops after eating for a while since business was so slow. He was just getting my money, an order for food, and getting ready to leave. I was excited, telling him about how much fun I had at the wrestling show, and was showing him my Terry Funk t-shirt I was so proud of. I was just walking into the back office to put the shirt up when I heard the doorbell, indicating a customer had entered. It is true what they say. Ask not for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. I had turned around when I heard someone say something loudly, but I still couldn't make out what they had said. I had just reached the doorway when I saw Andrew just fall down in front of me. The next thing I know, a guy walks around the corner and punches me in the head with a short steel pipe in his hand. It staggered me, and I went to one knee. The next thing I know, he hits me in the head with a pipe. The next thing I know, I hear the other guy, who I hadn't noticed to this moment, say he got away and got a cop. They left out the door. I was finally able to get to my feet. I tried to call the police from the phone in the back office, but it was having issues. I slammed it in frustration. I was hurting and scared. I was really freaking out. I realized that they could come back, so I ran and locked the door. I didn't know where Andrew had gone, and that worried me. I called 911 about this time. Blood had started pouring down my head. I told the operator I had been attacked and needed an officer and ambulance. I then called the other hotel we ran to let the night manager, named Travis, who was over all three properties, know what had happened. He thought I was messing with him at first, because when we got bored, we would prank each other. I finally convinced him I was not joking. He was going to lock up and come down. The cops and ambulance pulled up, and I opened the door. It was at this time I found out after they sucker punched him and knocked him down, Andrew was able to amazingly jump over the desk and escape, just as a cop was driving by, which he ran to flag down for help. I ended up in the hospital ER, where I had to have 10 staples in my scalp, and they gave me morphine for pain. I had no way to get home after being treated, but the doctor and nurses took pity on me and paid for a cab. My plan was to go back to work because this was December and Christmas was coming. I had 3 kids and needed all the hours I could get. When I got back to the hotel, the IT guy, Ted, was there with his wife Barbara, who also worked at the front desk. She was shocked to see me. She thought I would still be in the hospital. I thought I had only been hit in the head once after being punched. The video which Ted was pulling for the police showed a different story. After I went to one knee, the guy had hit me not just one time, but 10 total times. I kept trying to grab the pipe and get up for some reason. I do not remember that. I guess I was out on my feet. He kept punching me and hitting me with the pipe, till his friend tells him Andrew got away and then got the cops. The 2 of them then run out. I was given a room at the other hotel we own, and Ted and Barbara gave me a lift as I was in no condition to drive due to the morphine. They also gave me a paid week off to heal. They switched me over to the other hotel on night shift for a month, just in case they were after me in particular. We never found out why they chose to attack me. The police thought it might be a failed strong-arm robbery due to Andrew getting away and me not just going down. It shook me up though, not knowing. Even though I was at our other hotel when I came back to work the night shift, I was still nervous. Every time the door chimed, I tensed up. I couldn't afford to quit though. As I said, I had 3 kids I was supporting. They never caught the guys, as far as I know. A detective stopped by about 2 months later when I was working second. He showed me several mugshots and asked me if any of them looked familiar. I never got a great look at them, as it all happened so fast. I had seen the video, which wasn't the best quality. Even so, 2 of them looked very familiar, like them. I pointed them out and he asked me how sure I was. I told him, honestly, like 85%. He then yelled and asked me if I wanted someone to go to jail for attempted murder on 85%. I was stunned into silence. I was the victim. I was attacked for no reason, and he is yelling at me like it's my fault. I was too busy getting attacked to get a good look at them. I no longer work at a hotel and night shift, and I am glad, because it is just too dangerous in this area. It's spooky season, which always gets me talking with buddies about the creepy things we've been through. I almost never touch on this story though, because it's not one of those classic scary stories everyone likes to share around a few beers. I used to work night shifts at this large manufacturing facility. Night shift was a very small crew, 5 security, 5 of us running admin and packing. As admin staff, I sat with security as they'd switch between patrolling and monitoring the cameras. It was usually pretty silent and boring. Now, I'm not sure how the building got its haunted story. No one besides us ever wanted to work at night because of the rumors. None of us ever had any experiences. No one died there. No crazy accidents happened. It wasn't destroyed and rebuilt. It was peaceful and uneventful. But stories always spread, as they tend to do with big, dark, creepy spaces. And it was creepy. It's surrounded with woods, circled with fencing. Mostly empty at night, which made it feel incredibly imposing and empty. Creepy motion-activated lights inside and out. Sounds carried and echoed, but still, none of us ever had any experiences there until this. It was around Halloween, maybe a week or 2 before it. I was halfway into my shift, making it my lunch hour. It was chilly, and I went to my car to grab my bigger jacket and have a smoke break. I was right outside the back door, which the fencing runs closest to. It's maybe 10 yards off the back door. The only light is motion activated, and I had to keep making grand arm movements to keep it on. It's all grass and shadows up to the fence, and the light doesn't really hit that far. I was watching videos on my phone, and the light cut out. I sat in the dark a bit, sipping my coffee and finishing my cigarette. As I was finishing, I reached up and waved, about to activate the light to find the ashtray. But as the light flickered on, I heard a noise at the fence across from me. We do get some animals out there, and they could get startled. It was all explained in my head instantly. But as I stood up, I heard the fence keep slightly jingling. When I looked up, I didn't see much. The light didn't really illuminate much outside its circle on the ground. I don't know why, but my first thought was to say, "Hello?" When I did, the sound stopped for a moment. I squinted into the darkness, trying to adjust. The light went out. There, in the darkness, the moon had a little more effect lighting up the area. The fence started jingling again, really lightly. As my eyes adjusted better, I saw a movement. It looked like a person opposite me at the fence, fidgeting with the links. I thought, this must be a kid trying to spook us. Maybe they were going to break in and ghost hunt. Some high school kids have before without knowing the building never closed. And we were usually pretty cool with them, poking around as long as they didn't touch anything and made it fast, so they could run and tell their friends they lived through it. But that wasn't really common. And this was one person, alone. It felt off. I radioed in with my walkie-talkie to desk security. "Hey, we have a visitor out by the north door, behind the fence." I've seen the monitors of the camera feed, and I know this area is totally covered. They'd be able to see the fence clearly. My walkie-talkie beeped back, and the voice said, "We aren't reading any movement at the fence. Is it in the tree line?" "Negative. They're fiddling with the fence, right in front of me." This all happened in the span of seconds. My cigarette butt was still in my hands, and I just barely swallowed my last sip of coffee. They didn't even have the chance to reply to me when, from the fence, I heard this massively louder thrash of the lynx, and all I saw was the figure full-on sprinting at me. I made a terribly embarrassing choking noise and crushed my coffee cup against the knob, trying to rush myself in. The fence is so close, it's not going to take more than a few bounds to reach me. I pushed myself in so hard and held the knob in place, trying to figure the deadbolt into place. The knob was flicking down hard against my hold. I could hear and feel something moving against the opposite side of the door. I radioed back, "Get down here now!" But I already heard steps coming my way. The knob stopped moving by the time they got there. It was all over with. Back at the office, the security staff tried to play off like I was having a laugh about it, like this was a great Halloween joke I played. I didn't understand why they weren't taking it seriously until I saw the playback. It was just me outside. There was nothing there. My brain couldn't explain what I experienced outside while confronting the video. I immediately thought this was a big goof on me. Maybe they fiddled with the footage and had someone scare me, but they genuinely thought I was the one goofing with them. We were doing that whole back and forth, okay, whose idea was this, who was messing with who? Until the second time watching the playthrough. We noticed the way the door handle kept moving, even when I removed my hand from it. Both the inside camera and the outside caught it. I noticed right before I panicked and turned to run inside, the fence made a slight jolt as if it were pushed. There were no holes in the fence or any kind of cuts made where someone could squeeze through. There were no creepy shadows or unexplained wisps of smoke or lights or movement besides those. Just me in the night, jumping out of my skin and running inside. I kept trying to think back to when I jumped, when that figure burst at me full speed, if the light activated for their movement or mine. I couldn't decide. I couldn't remember exactly. It was so fast. But nobody there wanted to admit anything happened to me. It was a trick of the moonlight, overactive imagination, too much coffee, branches against the chain links. No one's ever experienced anything weird here, and it wouldn't just start up here now for no reason. I didn't make a fuss. I didn't want to argue about it. They already thought I was being weird about it. Maybe I was. I went about finishing my shift, but no one used the back door again that night, and it remained locked. The longest employed security was finishing up the shift at the desk with me in the office. It was before dawn. The morning shift was trickling in the parking lot. He watched the cameras in silence while I typed away. A few minutes before clocking out, he cleared his throat and told me, "I never really liked the North End. It feels like someone's eyes are always on me." It's honestly the most he's ever said to me in the year plus I worked there. The most I've ever heard him say. I felt like that statement held even more weight for that alone. I didn't quit though. I stayed on another 7 months until the company was bought out and they stopped overnight shifts to pile more work on day shifts for less money with less employees. There was never another incident. I never actually went out there again though. I stopped smoking, took my breaks out in the lobby, or wasted time chatting with coworkers. But I made excuses not to sit outside, to be honest. I feel like a lot of us did. I have never before or since had any moments where I felt like my imagination got the better of me, and I truly believe that wasn't the case here. I keep thinking back at the door handle jerking down when I was back on the walkie. That had to be proof I wasn't imagining the whole thing. No one ever brought it up again, and whenever anyone asked about working in the old crappy factory, everyone would say, "Oh, we never saw anything up there. It's just a boring building at night." I would just smile and keep my side of the story to myself. But I wondered if anyone else was holding stories to themselves. Maybe they'd slip out after a few beers, and fueled a few more questions about the haunted factory.